Welcome. This is David Bowles, Human Meme. Today's topic: vote for your life. Well, I know if you're listening to this Human Meme podcast, you are an active participant in society. You care. You depend. You help. And I know this because if you were not all of those things, you would not be here right now with me. Yes, I know. You vote, and the proof is in your listening. No matter where you might happen to live in the world, you know the vote counts. You vote because voting is the only way to have a voice in a world that is just too easily narrowed by autocracy, greed, and authoritarianism. And if you happen to live in a place where you are not allowed to vote, well, then I know the value of voting, the importance of your single vote, means something to you that too many of us in the West have lost. Yes, we have become nonchalant. We may vote, we may not vote. Not voting, not wearing a mask, have mistakenly become traceable political footfalls. They've become something odd, like voting is something the government forces you to do and that you must rebel against. Well, we who actually vote know better. We know losses, and we know wins, and we worry about those who cannot and who will not vote. So I know you will vote. And what I'm asking you today, my human meme friend, is this. When the time for voting is nigh, think about helping someone else vote along with you. Yes, find a way to double the vote with your participation and your encouragement, even if that person happens to vote against your interests. Because casting the ballot is the only thing that matters, and voting one way doesn't mean that person cannot change in the future. And the more of us involved in this voting process, the better it is for the all of us and democracy and freedom in the longer run. So, if you happen to have a friend or an elderly person you know, or even a regular old family member who doesn't like to vote, help them vote. Encourage it. Get thee and them to a polling place. Let them feel part of the process of society, instead of only feeling brought along by the whims and cruelties of others. Mercy happens in elections, and grace is the real result, no matter how the vote comes out. So do the right thing, and help a non-voter become a better voter. It's absolutely in your best interest to amplify democracy with your own voice and the power of your own hand. A good friend of mine has an interesting theory about people who have so far refused to wear masks in public in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. My friend said those who won't go along with the mask mandate are just scared and angry. Those non-maskers feel like they don't have any control over their personal or work lives. And so the only way they can assert their independence and their authority is to rebel against the authority and the ask to wear a mask. Because in their mind, they think they're doing the right thing in not masking up, when all they're really doing is hurting themselves The non-maskers asserting individualism is only really about trying to feel safe and secure and to know that they're still alive, able to make decisions. They want to be noticed, even if that attention is negative. So try to remember that the next time you run into a non-mask wearer, or worse, the ones who passive-aggressively will not cover their noses while, quote, wearing a mask, unquote. Or those who cut holes in their masks so they can breathe, and who argue they are technically in compliance with the welfare of the rest of the community. And please know that we really should pity them, the non-mask wearers. Pity them while we run across the street to get away from them, because their lives are so terrible that the only thing left to them is to tempt fate and sickness and death, and play with the grave by defying the real power of wearing a mask. And yes, they would feel empowered and a part of a greater society if they only wore a mask. But they refuse to get over the giving up of their false perceptions over a cursed reality. No masks, no vote, same thing. Same want for apparent control by doing nothing, but thinking they're winning by gaming the system of disallowment. And so, once again, my human meme friend, it's left up to us to make clear that voting is never a burden. Voting is a right we earned and a privilege we deserve. So why do so many people toss away their rights without any benefit, except in a self-defeat that helps other people win? Voting is a surreptitious ploy against the unfathomable. You vote because you want to be heard. You vote because you want to have a say in your own future. And counting the votes becomes even more important as technology changes our world. Where once paper and pencil served us well, now we rely on the ether of the internet to folly us forward. And that is a problem. Oh, sure, we've always had vote manipulation. It's just too easy not to in the sudden rush of votes to be counted. But as long as there was a paper trail, you could try to put the votes back together and get a greater understanding of what was really happening. But with this electronic vote as it is now, things get pretty slimy pretty fast if there's no printout, no reliable printout and confirmation of the votes cast. And that's a problem that technology created, and that only technology can solve. Is blockchain the solution to our voting problems? Maybe, perhaps. Is there a better way to protect the vote? We need to know. So what do we do in this in-between time of indecision? We can't just sit and wait for the hoax to become the reality. That's how death is tempted into taking us. We cannot stand around and ponder and hope and pray. We have to act. We have to do what freedom requires of us. We have to vote. Vote in person if possible. And yes, bring along our friends and family and those who need a ride to the polls. It's the strength in numbers that protects the vote and helps vanquish cheating. The truth of overwhelming numbers will always win out over facts that change with the whims of condescension from deceitful people. The vote is a rock. The vote is a sacred truth. The vote is what has always saved us from enslavement. and the enslaved are always the first to remind us, and sometimes not so gently, of that horrible, precious truth in the final tally. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.